Welcome back to our next leg on our race around the world here at the Pitstop Pals, part of the Reality Realm podcast network. My name is Kevin Oliver,
And my name is Bruce Heller.
and this is episode 4 of season 37, No Addresses in the Jungle. Who said that?
I don't know who did say that.
Josiah.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, Bruce,
I
I don't.
where'd my notes go?
Fun fact,
I-
people.
What?
I don't have my notes on me right now, so Bruce is going to drive this episode, which also means I don't have any quotes. Bruce, what do you got?
Me driving the episode means we're going to end up in a ditch at some point, but we'll see.
We might start there.
I have, and I don't have the last word of the sentence, but it's you can taste the smell of something. And that just sounded funny to me because you can't taste smells, you smell smells.
I don't know what it would have been.
And then I have there's no addresses in the jungle. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even realize that was the episode title, I guess. We're living our Mario Kart fantasy,
I
which has
did
to,
see that one. Oh
that
my
has to
gosh.
have been Jack or Carson.
Yeah, yeah, that's who it was.
There's no way it would be anyone else other than the video game streamers. That Rice did something horrible to you, and that was, I think, Scott trying to motivate Lori on the challenge where you're hitting a rice plant against the basket to shake the rice loose.
Which I don't think she needed any more motivation than just picture Jonathan and Hannah's faces.
Yeah, everyone reacted very strongly to that. I really don't see the problem, but I guess we'll get there.
Yeah.
They gave heavy weights to their closest competitors and then gave lighter weights to the people farther away. I don't see why everyone's upset other than they're just salty they didn't get there first. But
We'll talk about it.
yeah, that's kind of my just the synopsis. I have more nuanced thoughts. Well,
Yeah.
as nuanced as my thoughts can be, but again, we're gonna drive into a ditch at some point. I can already tell. That Rice did something horrible to you. Trouble in Paradise with mom and dad,
Yeah,
and people are getting tired of mom and dad this episode.
they are.
And then my last one is a two-liner. It's between Pops and Jeff after one of the challenges, and Pops goes, "Right now, I'm a proud dad," and Jeff goes, "Right now, what about all the time?" Which is, I feel like, is absolutely a conversation I would have with my dad. But after that, Pops goes, "Well, I'm always a proud dad." I feel like there's a chance my dad would have thrown another sarcastic line in there, and this would have kept going longer. I would have said, "What about all the time?" And he would have said something along the lines of, "Well, maybe."
See, that's why we need Bruce and uh, Kent on the Amazing Race.
We'd kill each other. As
Makes for
stubborn
great
as you
TV.
have seen that I am, he's where I get it from. So it's worse.
Makes for great TV, though.
And my mom, for 24 years, I guess, lived in a house with both of us. So she's a saint for putting up with the two of us because we bicker a lot too.
Amen.
I love my dad though; he's great. And so we start out. We're flying to Bali, Indonesia,
Yes. 3,000 miles in the air.
and there was some airport transportation scenes. I didn't take a ton of notes there. My next note is the
Well,
our clue will arrive at the rising sun, and there's
okay.
this sign.
I'm kind of going by memory here. What I can say is literally everybody but Bernie and Kerrigan got on the same flight.
Yeah, this is a sad episode for you. Speaking of Bernie and Kerrigan, I thought
Yeah.
about like bringing one of my dress-up jackets out of my closet to wear over my t-shirt, but I'm going to
Like,
save that for if my favorite team goes home instead of doing it when your favorite team goes home. I was going
like,
to go like bring my black pinstripe jacket and pretend I was at like a podcast funeral.
Like I
But
did
it's
when
your
Bob
favorite team,
Harper.
not mine. So
Like I did when Bob Harper got murdered on the Traders.
yes, but it's not my
Mhm.
favorite team. It's yours. So I'm gonna save that if I remember.
You won't.
I actually, because you've been to my house, you've been to the church I work at. It's right around the corner. I thought about driving back home for it because I got here and realized I didn't bring the jacket with me. And I'm
Mm.
like, you know what? This doesn't make as much sense. It's not my favorite team, it's his. So I stayed here. But our clue is at the will arrive with the rising sun, and the teams take numbers off of this sign that says that corresponding to their arrival at this sign. So the first team there, they take a little number one, and then so on.
And we see Carson and Jack have some taxi mishaps here, and they got there last out of the 9 teams that got there on the first flight.
Yeah.
So ninth out of 10 is where they're basically starting Bali.
Was it this week or last week where someone's taxi took them a long ways in the wrong direction?
That was this week.
That was Brett and Mark, I believe.
It was, but we're not there yet.
No, that's some Jim and Misty type of transportation issues there, though.
But but
Except,
Jim and Misty's transportation problems were often their own fault.
and it was like 3 episodes in a row. Brett and Mark have had it happen to them once. So
Yeah.
that's just the team I think of with transportation issues.
Mm-hmm.
Team Dentist. I don't know if that was their team name. That's what I call them in my head.
I think it was.
But next is we're riding ATVs through these like paths in Bali through the woods. And this looks like so
And
much fun.
through a cave.
Especially the cave part looks fun because caves are cool.
Yeah, but they're also very narrow, and that seems like I wouldn't want you driving.
And they're also I wouldn't want to drive through the cave actually because they're slippery because they're wet and there's no like sunlight to dry up the water.
Do you have ATV experience?
No, but if I'm on like the wooded like the paths through the woods where it's like dirt and then woods, I'd feel fine. It's just narrow. Like, I don't even like driving a car like over a bridge when they're working on it and it's like one lane and it's super narrow because I feel like I'm gonna hit one side of it. I just don't like driving through narrow spaces.
Okay. Well, I'll be glad to take that role.
But the driving through the woods I want to do because that looks fun and that
But we
part
don't get a stop and switch.
I know, but I want to have fun too.
Yeah, you're on it.
Fair enough. And also, speaking
And
of
I
that
have ATV
cave,
experience.
well, I don't remember. No, this wasn't in the cave. But the clue is under a waterfall, and the waterfall is awesome, and I love waterfalls.
Yes,
So,
after you get out of the cave, you get to the waterfall.
yeah, and I love waterfalls, so that was really cool.
Hey guys, Bruce likes waterfalls if you didn't know.
They're just cool looking, and they make a fun sound. There's a big one I've been to in Kentucky a couple times with my mom and my grandparents.
Huh.
Okay, time for Bruce mispronounces words, one of our common segments on this show, because I'm
It's
bad
not
at
that common
English. I'm
because
worse
you're
at other languages.
it's not that common because you're usually not the one trying to pronounce them.
Well, just me mispronouncing words in general is common.
But you said it like it was a common thing on this show.
I feel like it probably is. But this one doesn't look that. I wrote it down how it was spelled on the show. It's the name of these rice fields we're going to, and it's the Tampak Searing rice fields. That's what I'm gonna go with.
That's what you're right.
Okay, here's the thing, guys. I'm bad at English, so I'm not gonna be good at other languages that I don't
Amen.
know.
Amen.
But at the rice fields, you need to gather a certain amount of rice by taking a rice plant over a basket slash bag and like slamming the plant against this like board type thing. It's like this baskety woven board type thing.
And this is called threshing.
Yeah. But Jonathan and Anna got there first, and they get to decide how much rice each team needs to gather.
Because of our new, what do you call it? New twist called the driver's seat,
Are we
which
just gonna have a twist like this every episode?
well, there's going to be some kind of twist, whether it's new or whether it's,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's how they've branded this season.
I kind of like that.
Hmm.
Bring back the save.
No, you're only saying that because that's one of the few twists you actually know.
And because that's one of the few I haven't seen people talking about because it's not a good twist. It's overpowered. So
Mostly because it's one of the few that he knows.
true. It's also just overpowered. So I'm joking about it bringing back a twist that I know is bad.
Hmm.
There's a reason they haven't done it in so long.
Right.
But if you give out a save on like three legs in a row, then we can have some fun.
No, no save should exist. Anyway, I will speak to the driver's seat a little more because
Yeah, I forgot about that.
okay, so the driver's seat, it is a new twist for the Amazing Race, and the idea is that whoever gets there first gets to have control over how much work every other team has to do on the roadblock. And so with this one, with the rice threshing, the control comes down to how many pounds of rice they have to thresh. There's 15, 20, and 25. Now the thing was, there's 10 teams here. Two teams get 15, three teams get 20, and everybody else gets 25. And so the teams with 15 were Jonathan and Anna themselves, and Melinda and Erica. Then they gave 20 to Carson and Jack, Brett and Mark, and I'm trying to think of who the third one was. Han and Holden. And then the other five teams, which would be Pops and Jeff, Nick and Mike, Scott and Lori, Alyssa and Josiah, and Bernie and Kerrigan for some reason. I know why. It's because they at first didn't assign themselves one. So they were going to give Bernie and Kerrigan the easy one. And then they took it away because they needed to give themselves the easy one. And all they had left was a 25. Anyways, those were the divisions, and then yeah, that's all with the driver's seat.
Yeah. And so,
And then Jonathan and Anna decided to use their express pass right away, which is a kind of douchey move. They should not have taken a 15 spot and then did that.
which I get, and I think that's part of why people were upset, but it's
It
a
is.
competition. Like you're
Yeah, but
trying to
Bernie
give
and
yourself
Kerrigan,
every advantage you can. You're not going to purposely make it where other teams can catch you quicker.
Bernie and Kerrigan weren't going to catch them quickly. Giving
That
them the
yeah, that one was weird, but
that
like
was that was the other person that would have got a 15.
Scott and Lori were all upset that they took a 15. I'm like, they're not going to make it easier on you. You're
No,
right
they weren't.
behind them.
I don't think that Scott and Lori were upset that they didn't get the 15. I think they probably expected not to get the 15, but it was that Jonathan and Anna took the 15. It was more of a moral thing than a they got after me thing.
Yeah, I guess that's
Uh,
fair.
yeah, because Bernie and Kerrigan would have been the team they gave the other 15 to.
Yeah.
That's like canon. We know that.
Yeah. None of this would have happened if they had remembered that they needed to give themselves a weight.
I mean, it still would have happened.
No, but they would have given Bernie and Kerrigan the lighter weight.
I think they would have given Bernie and Kerrigan a 20 instead of a 25. I think they still would have gave Melinda and Erica the 15.
Maybe. A lot of this stems from them forgetting to give themselves a weight and just making one little switch at the end.
Yeah.
Whereas if they knew know they needed to give themselves a weight, they could have organized it in a better way to where these problems maybe don't come up.
But even they said that if they would have realized they were going to take the express pass, they wouldn't have taken a 15.
Yeah. So it's not planning ahead with the express pass and not realizing that you need to give yourself a weight combined for a bit of a messy situation.
Well, to be honest, I'm not convinced that they should have used their express pass.
I At the time they used it, I thought it was smart because it looked like this challenge was going to take absolutely forever.
But either
Scott and
way,
Lori kind of
it's
catch
going to
up
take
to them kind of quickly, so I kind of changed my mind. But at first, I thought it was smart.
but also it's going to take everybody forever. And so if you I understand the 15, them taking 15 if they're going to do it,
Yeah,
because like if you're doing the easiest one and actually doing it, everybody else has to do it and do more than you. So it
yeah.
wasn't a good spot to
But
play the
if you
express
use
pass.
the express pass and it takes everyone forever, you have the opportunity to build a giant gap between you and second place.
Just so that the airline in the next episode can even it back out.
I mean, that's fair. We've seen seasons where that doesn't always happen, though.
Right. But think about this. They have a challenge that uh say like the soccer ball, but what if it's later on in the season and Anna has to do it and it's something she's not good at
If
and
it's
they
another
start falling
or
way
another
behind.
Siamese opera challenge.
Hang on. And they start falling way behind and they get eliminated. Man, I wish I had the express pass now rather
Yeah,
than when I was in first place.
yeah, that may or may not happen.
No, that's what I'm saying though. First place is not the place I want to use the express pass.
I don't think it was the smartest play, but I don't think it was a bad play either.
Time will tell.
Yeah, I did. My note at the time was great challenge to use this on. It's going to take everyone else forever, and they'll build a gap. But the next challenge also took a little while, and I think Scott and Lori caught up to them more than I thought they would.
Mm-hmm. I also don't think that building that much of a gap is that big a deal.
Fair enough,
Mm-hmm.
but the next clue is at the cleanest village in Bali. I forgot the name of it. I didn't write the name down because Mr. Phil said it very quickly. But it's in this very clean village.
I wrote it down, but I don't have my notes, so I can't tell you what it is.
Yeah. And I do like that upon arriving at the rice field, Scott and Lori noticed Jonathan and Anna used the express pass, because there's no way they had finished already. So just very perceptive, very smart there.
Yeah, totally.
And this is where my note is that Brett and Mark's taxi driver took them a long way in the wrong direction. Long is in all caps there.
43 minutes in the opposite direction.
Yeah. And so we also learned that Han and Holden's mom came from a rice farming family. So this is probably right up their alley.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. It was kind of a nice moment to be like, we want to honor these people who did this and made it possible for us not to have to do this for the rest of our lives by doing this well.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
Yeah. So we learn here that our two detours are penjor or pajem.
Okay, hang on. It's penjor with a J.
I have Pentjor.
It's pronounced penjor.
Okay, I wasn't sure if the J made the H sound like in Spanish or not.
No.
So penjor or
And actually,
pajegan.
there's really not a T in that.
They showed a T in there on the show.
I really don't think so, but
Well,
I can.
you don't have notes, so we're going with penjor because you told me I was driving.
I know, but
Moving on.
penjor is the word. But okay.
You either need to decorate one of these things that I'm not going to say the name of because I don't want to get bogged down in.
Oh, hang on. Where's I'm looking to flip my camera.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. See?
Anyway, the audio audience, you're welcome. But I
They don't know
swear
what's
they put
going
a
on.
T in there
Bruce,
on the
tell them what
show.
happened.
Now I'm curious.
What?
Hold on.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
I
Looking.
looked up I looked up penjor and it tried to correct me.
Yeah, okay. So the show spelled it wrong.
No, I wrote penjor from the show,
Well, you don't have your notes, so
but I have memory.
memory is unreliable.
Well,
That doesn't hold up in court.
it doesn't, but neither does you writing it down wrong.
Well, the challenge anyway, because that's what we're talking about. This isn't English class. I graduated school. I don't have to take school anymore.
Okay, penjor or what's the other one?
Pajem, Pajem, I think.
Them. Okay, I
I
think you're
didn't
right.
I didn't get it the first time he spelled it. He said it. I had to go back and write it down when people actually went to that challenge.
Right. Okay, you can tell about them.
So either like the penchor is this thing, this big long thing with all these decorations, and you're kind of decorating it to look a specific way. And there's a bunch of pieces you have to put in the right place to make it look like the model. And pajem is you're counting how many of each fruit you need to put on these trays to match the model trays. And you actually need to go out and find these fruits in local stores and then put them
Hey,
on the tray and carry the trays on your head.
it's pajegan.
Well, I was guessing anyway. I assumed I got that one wrong. They said it too.
Right. Yeah. No, it's all good. I wanted to check because it didn't sound right, but I couldn't remember
Yeah,
what it was.
I wrote Pajem up there at the beginning with both detours, but on my lists of where I just put other one because people were arriving there before I knew what it was called.
Yeah, pajegan. Pajegan.
I got most of those letters.
Yeah, yeah, you did fine. I couldn't even remember it, so I had to look it up.
So basically, everyone other than Han and Holden and Nick and Mike chooses the Penjor,
Hmm.
and those two teams. And I feel like the other one was a lot harder because you actually have to go find the fruits in the local stores.
Yeah, yeah. I think that depending on, I feel like it depends on what your skill set is.
Yeah,
Because like, if you're not an attention to detail person, I think Pajigan was probably the right move for you.
yeah. For me, it would be.
Right. Because like in theory, Pinjor is easier, but we've seen people get bogged down because they had something backwards or missed one little piece of something just because of attention to detail stuff.
Yeah. And so at this point is when Scott and Lori arrive at Penjor or Penjor, depending on who you ask. Don't ask me, I guess. But and what Scott and Lori do is they tell us in a confessional that they're giving Jonathan and Anna the silent treatment, and we're going to ignore them because we're mad at them.
Because that's what we do to our kids.
Yeah, apparently we're in kindergarten or something here. They're not going to care that you're doing that. They're focused on what they're doing. I
Right.
want to like Scott and Lori, and I have. I didn't like them as much this episode as I have in the previous episodes for whatever reason.
So I don't think that.
And I think it's because everyone keeps pointing out that they see through their act. So like I'm like, yeah.
Mhm. I also don't blame them for being mad at Jonathan and Anna. I think. Well,
No,
I think truthfully, I think that while they didn't expect to get like a 15, maybe they thought they'd get in the one of the 20s. Maybe because they thought they had a better relationship with John and Anna, and John and Anna are
yeah.
playing the game.
But you're the closest team right behind them. Why wouldn't they give you the hard one?
Right. Well, because they thought that their social bonds
Yeah.
outweighed them.
But and I don't blame them for being mad. My comment here is more like, "Oh, you're making such a big deal about the silent treatment and ignoring them. They're not talking to you anyway. They don't care. They're
Well, they did
focused
say
on
hi
what
to
they're
him
doing."
as they walked in.
Oh, I missed that. I just thought it was funny they made such a big deal about treating them like they're kids. I'm like, okay, this is a little much.
Well, because if you think about it, like whenever a new team shows up to any of these challenges, they always like uh small talk. Just say, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, is this hard? Hey, da
Oh,
da da," and then go on.
oh well.
Not just them. I just mean every team in general pretty much does that.
Yeah, and I have a quote here from either Brett or Mark at the rice field. This episode does a lot. They're spaced out enough. It does a lot of back and forth between challenges,
Yeah.
and we haven't either Brett or Mark. He says, I don't think they think we're a team that needs to be targeted, and I wrote down that's because you're not.
I disagree.
They've been ahead of you the whole time. You've been middle to bottom of the pack a few episodes now. They're not worried about you. You're not close behind them.
But but they gave Nick and Mike and Pops and Jeff, who have been clearly worse than Brett and Mark.
Yeah, I can't explain. Honestly, with the driver's seat, I would have just gone in finishing order from the previous leg because that's
But
easy
in
to explain it, and it's not like you put a ton of thought into specifically targeting people. It's like, you know what? Here's how close you were behind me. This is what we're doing.
Well, I think what they did was the finishing order got all jumbled up when they all got on the same plane together.
Yeah,
So I think they were doing it based on it's hard to justify that when everybody's together.
yeah. I just kind of feel like Brett and Mark think they're better than they've been so far, and there's potential for them to be at the end of this season for sure. They just haven't performed up to that yet. So,
Keep in mind they finished second on week 1.
okay, this is week 5 or 4.
Yeah,
We've had 3 episodes of mediocrity since then.
I would disagree simply because the reason that they got so far behind in the second episode was because of Ernest.
Yeah, that's fair. I
If
just think they
if we
think they're
look at
better than they've been so far, is
if we
all.
look at their competition prowess, they would have been first or second in that episode if they didn't have the to count on somebody else's drumming ability because they uh, Mark had the drumming down maybe his first or second time, and they went faster than everybody else at sumo. They made up 3 spots on
Yeah,
sumo.
that's fair.
I would argue that they're a better team than they're. I'd argue that finishing order does not always dictate quality of competition.
It doesn't. I still wouldn't put them among the top 3 teams, though. And I feel like they think of themselves as like top of the pack teams.
But there's 5 teams that have to get the heaviest weight.
I don't know. That was my note at the time.
Yeah, and I'm just pushing back against it. That's okay.
Yeah. So next up, Han and Holden and Nick and Mike are at the fruit tray one. and they're making up us this story to remember how many of each fruit they need in numbers. And I thought that was really smart. I don't think I would have thought of that.
Yeah, we probably would have really just been in trouble here.
You probably would have wanted to do the other one and would have carried me through the other one because like, the other one looks easier in a sense, but there's like 1,000 pieces that you have to have all in the like specific right place.
Right.
But I don't know. The fruit tray one seems harder on the surface, but the two teams that did it did fairly decent. So
I would not have enjoyed carrying it on my head.
no.
If Nick and Mike were having trouble,
And
I imagine you and me trying to carry it.
finding a stores that have the specific numbers of fruits in a country where you don't speak the language too.
Yeah.
And at this point, yeah. My next note is at penjor or penjor. Either one works.
Penjor.
But well, it's not pajor. There's an N
I,
in it.
I said Penjor.
Oh, I thought you said pajor.
No, Penjor.
Alyssa and Josias noticed trouble in paradise with mom and dad is one of my quotes because Scott and Lori are kind of bickering a little bit there. And at this
Yeah.
point, this is like the third time we've seen a team, and we see it again when like 40 teams finish at the same time. Where they're like, well, they do this whole aw shucks, we're old, where these like parents act, and they're really good. Like, I feel like teams are starting to get tired of Scott and Lori based on this episode.
I think they made that very clear.
And I'm not as tired of them as they are, but like they explained it enough times that I'm kind of like, you know what, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't necessarily have the same feelings as these teams, but it's also the fact that I'm not running the race with them.
It's
So
not as strong as these teams for sure, but like I came into this like, yeah, they're fun. I like them, and that's wearing out a little bit.
it's all right. You don't have to like Scott and Lori. I don't like Jonathan and Anna. It's fine. Actually, I don't like Jonathan. Anna's great.
And everyone likes Pops and Jeff.
That's true. They do.
And Todd and Ashley told us on our Instagram, I think, that they're rooting for Pops and Jeff. So,
And we love Todd and Ashley.
yes. And so, next note after Alyssa and Josiah noticing the old couple bickering, Scott and Lori, that's their name. Sorry, I forgot it for a second. Is the pit stop is in Cura Dalem Pelapuan.
And there was another word too. There's four words.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, it was like there was, and yeah, because I think the word pelican was after whatever you said. Here,
But
real
while he
quick.
looks that up, Scott and Lori get fist bumps from the local kids as they're carrying their penjor. Because when you finish decorating, you have to carry it down through the village to an empty spot where you place it in a hole and stand it up in the ground. And like all the local kids are giving them fist bumps, and I thought that was really cool.
So it was all the words you said, but then the other thing was it like the actual area they're in is called what is it called? The actual area they're in is called Pangalapuran. So it said Pura de Lem Pelapuan, and then uh, and then there was like a comma or whatever,
Oh,
kind of like St. Louis, comma Missouri.
yeah.
It was
Okay.
it was Pura de Lem Pelapuan, comma Pangalapuran.
So I'm gonna claim I was right on that
No,
one.
you were right. You were right. It was just I remember writing four words down, and I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen.
You've seen me enough times. There's no way that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen.
Fine, the most ridiculous thing I saw that day.
Okay. And so at this point, after Scott and Lori get their fist bumps, we see Bernie and Kerrigan, who are at this point way behind, and there's more arguing between them. And I'm pretty sure they're done at this point,
Yeah, I
which
think
was
they.
my last note before I have the finishing order written out.
Yeah, Bernie and Kerrigan, I want to say that earlier in the season, I still have a lot of love for Bernie and Kerrigan, but they are no Kim and Allie like we thought they could be.
Yeah.
There was a lot of arguing, a lot of bickering, and I still stand by supporting them,
Oh yeah, they're awesome. They're so much fun when they're not arguing.
but they're not Kim and Allie.
No. They do give off that vibe though, at least.
From the center, but the more you watch them, the less you feel that way.
Yeah. And so going into our finishing order, and I forgot to write down which ones it were, but a bunch of teams finished at the same time.
Um, Basically, it was Alyssa, Josiah, Breton, Mark, Melinda, and Erica, Han, and Holden, and Pops and Jeff all finished at the same time.
So teams number 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 5 teams all finished at once. Very close to the 40 teams at once that I said earlier.
Yes.
Jonathan and Anna, number 1, they win a trip for 2-2. It says Croatia here. I feel like I wrote that down wrong.
Croatia. Croatia.
Croatia, okay. And Montenegro.
Yes.
I had to make sure to write that down because I get fussed at when I don't write down the prizes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Carson and Jack are second. Scott and Lori are third. I don't remember what the difficult finishing order was that we talked about last week with power rankings, but I don't think it happened.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
So, Melinda and Erica 4. Were Melinda and Erica by themselves, or were they with the group also?
They were with the group. They were at the start of the group.
So Melinda, Erica 4, Alyssa, Josiah 5, Han and Holden 6, Brett and Mark 7, Nick and Mike 8, and Pops and Jeff 9 all arrived on the mat at the same time, basically.
Because they were like sprinting down that thing and running in circles and everything else.
This was a fun episode.
It was. But you're forgetting one thing.
No, I know we got to do power rankings. I was just wrapping up the episode before we get into it.
Oh, okay.
But Bernie and Kerrigan get eliminated, but we already talked about that part.
It is a fun episode. Is usually your like wind down of the episode. So
yeah, I'll probably say it again, honestly.
Yeah.
But I pulled up my notes on my computer from last week, and my top 3 in order of power rankings is how the top 3 finished this week. So that made that easy.
Yeah, so I'm going to take over for power rankings here. Bruce, who do you have in 9th place?
9th place is, I hate doing this because we both loved them in the cast release, but Nick and Mike. Pops and Jeff technically finished behind them, but we've seen Pops and Jeff perform better than we've seen Nick and Mike perform.
I also have Nick and Mike here. And I want them to do better, but they have been struggling. They had a chance to step up here. They were like 4th place coming off the plane.
Yeah.
And they still find themselves in 8th place. So until they show me that they can live in the front of the pack, they can't really go any higher than this.
Yeah.
Who you got next?
I have everyone's famous sibling, children of a rice farmer, Han and Holden.
Famous? Everybody's famous.
Everyone's favorite.
You said famous.
I said favorite.
Okay,
everyone's favorite siblings and children of a former rice farmer, Han and Holden. I guess they are famous, though. They're on TV.
You said famous. Anyway, Pops and Jeff are my number 8.
Fair.
And I didn't want to do this either, but I can't really justify any higher with how they've been performing.
Yeah.
7.
Pops and Jeff. I think they're gonna do Pops and Jeff feel like they're gonna do the Amy and Maya thing where they're like middle of the pack to lower part of the pack every episode, but they keep surviving somehow. I'm getting that vibe.
Like winner vibe.
I don't know if I'd go that far because just I'm getting the winner feel from Jonathan and Anna and no one else right now because of screen time also. I love Pops and Jeff to win. I'll be insufferable if they do. But
You said like Amy and Maya, so that's why.
that's just kind of what Amy and Maya did. They weren't that great until the last episode. They were middle to bottom of the pack every episode, but did just enough to not get eliminated.
And then they won.
And then they finished last, I think, the second to last episode, but they still advanced or something like that because Brooke and Robbie were all upset that Amy and Maya were there.
Yep, it was a 4-team finale.
So, but I am gonna take credit for saying at the beginning I had a gut feeling that Amy and Maya would go really far, even though I couldn't explain why.
And I knew they won, and I couldn't say anything.
I haven't bragged about that a ton because I really couldn't explain why, but I did say that.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you have at 6 or 7?
On and Holden.
Okay, so we just reversed those two.
Yeah, they looked a lot better this week.
They've been getting gradually better each week, I think.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'd say each week, but definitely this week.
I thought last week was better than the week before.
I think we had them in last place both last week.
We had them in last place, I think, week 1 and week 2.
Maybe.
Well, I think I did have them in last. I've had them in last place a few times. It looks like I had them in last place last week, and then Bernie and Kerrigan second, but second to last.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at last week notes next to my Zoom window.
Mm-hmm.
And then this week's notes are on my phone.
Right.
So.
What about you at 6?
Me and 6 is. Well, what I wrote down, because I actually did my power rankings ahead of time again. What I wrote down was Melinda and Jeff, but it's actually Melinda and Erica.
Imagine Melinda and Jeff on a team.
Which one is Melinda? Is that the daughter or the mother?
That's the mom.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why that happened because I went from the bottom up when I was making them. So I had just written Jeff anyway. I'm going to change that.
And I'm putting Melinda and Jeff.
I'm actually not going to change it. It's funny that way.
Yep, I put Melinda and Jeff.
There you go.
Number 6 for me is Melinda and Erica. I don't know who Erica is because it's Melinda and Jeff, but
My
they finished
number 5.
Hang on. I'm not done.
Well, finish already. Spit it out.
Well, you didn't let me. You laughed at me and then you started talking.
I like talking.
Oh, I know. Melinda and Erica, they've done better 2 weeks in a row. If they do one more of these, I can't justify putting them as low as I do anymore.
Yeah.
But I just think the potential's there for some of these other teams above them.
Yeah. Now I go.
Yeah.
My number 5, so halfway through the pack here, 4 teams ahead of them, 4 teams behind them, Brett and Mark.
I agree.
They've been really high and they've been really low. I think cumulative, they've been an average team so far. They have potential to be a lot better. I just haven't. I want to see it more, I guess.
Yeah, I have them in 5.
The team ahead of them.
I have them in 5 here as well.
There we go. Them and Alyssa and Josiah are close. Alyssa and Josiah have proven it to me, and Brett and Mark, I feel like it's all potential, other than the first episode.
If you watch them do the challenges in the second episode, you would not. You would say they prove it.
But what about last week?
I'm trying to even remember how they did last week. What happened last
They
week?
were fifth out of 11 last week, so they were average.
That sounds okay to me.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they've been average so far, whereas there's potential to be a lot better than they've been.
And we say the same thing about Alyssa and Josiah.
These two teams are really close to me. Brett and Alyssa and Josiah are my 4.
Mine too.
It's really close between them.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of went, well, I don't know how I decided this, but
Yeah,
and
I
then
also have.
I feel like there's a gap between third and fourth place, though.
I don't think there's as much of a gap because I think Alyssa and Josiah. Okay, like I was saying, I don't think that Alyssa and Josiah are that far from jumping into the top 3.
They're not that far. I just like it's not like this cataclysmic Grand Canyon gap, but I feel like when I was coming up with this, I knew who the top 3 were immediately, and then I had to think of everyone else.
Fair.
Because it's like, and finishing order doesn't tell the whole story, but our finishing order has been these 3 teams for at least 2, maybe 3 legs in a row. Let me see if I can find episode 2.
Well, I want to give props real quick. Carson and Jack started Bali in 9th place after getting off the
Yeah.
plane and finished in 2nd.
It was not the same top 3 in episode 2. Carson and Jack finished 4th.
Yeah.
And then who do you have at 3? I think I know, but say it anyway.
You didn't say yours. Yours is before mine.
I tried to hijack it, I guess. I have Scott and Lori here. They were 3rd last week, and then they were 3rd in my power rankings last week, and they finished 3rd this week. So I can't put them above the other 2 teams.
I have Carson and Jack in 3rd.
I think you did that last week too.
I think I did too. No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
So Scott and Lori jumped Carson and Jack for you?
They did.
Huh.
Because I'm convinced that though they didn't finish as the better team this week, I'm convinced they're the more consistent and maybe the better overall team.
Yeah.
Scott and Lori ran the whole race at the front of the pack.
Yeah.
Where Carson and Jack had to claw their way up.
And number 2, I have Carson and Jack.
In number 2, I have Scott and Lori, and I think we've made the case for both of them already.
Yeah. And at number 1, I have Ricky and Cesar.
Ew.
What? They were so fun.
Yeah, they're fine.
And honestly, like challenge-wise, one of the most dominant teams I've seen. I haven't seen every season, but there was not a challenge that neither of them were good at. At least one of them was good at every challenge. Like
I said
last season.
I said ooh mostly because I just don't like season 36 in general.
Fair enough. And it wasn't great, but though Ricky and Cesar were awesome and just game-wise incredible.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll have to look it up, and I'm going to say this, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't think they finished below 3rd place the whole season.
No, I think you're right.
Which is kind of rare, because even the best teams will have a bad leg here and there. And they were really fun, too. So, Ricky and Cesar come in at my number 1 here.
3rd was the worst they ever did, and that was one time in episode 10.
That's insane.
Second, second, first, 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 second, second, first, 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 third, first.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I did the team that isn't on the season bit too recently, I guess. Kevin didn't laugh and surprise this time. So you may not hear that bit from me again for a little while.
Well, we decided you weren't going to do it every time, and then you have done it
I
every
didn't
week
do it last week.
every week except for last week,
I forgot last week.
or you would have done it.
Yeah, I thought I forgot that last week was the only week time this season I hadn't done it.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it makes you laugh when you don't see it coming though, so I need to space it out because it's a good bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Jonathan and Anna are my actual number one here.
Mine as well.
Ricky and Cesar are a better team, but they are not on this season, unfortunately. So
Yes.
just put them on every season and see how they fare.
I still think that's a bad idea for anybody, but you keep wanting to do it.
Well, it's with teams I like and teams I want to see on my TV. I'm basically saying put teams on my TV that I like.
I don't know. This could be a hot take. I don't know. There's a lot of teams I would list higher as teams I'd want to see more often than Ricky and Cesar.
I mean, me too, but they were fun and game wise they dominate. So I want to see if they'd win a few seasons in a row before losing.
They'd probably win every season.
Probably. It's a bad idea for that reason. We want to give other teams a chance to win.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else? You want to do all the
Um.
advertisement stuff?
What?
You want to do all the advertisement stuff?
Yep. Gladly. All right, guys. Make sure that you continue to check out all of our reality realm um, stuff on YouTube, on social media, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Check out Tribal Council Chat, where Bruce and I just talked about episode 5. Check out Next Generation Challenge podcast, where Brett
Yeah.
and TT come on and talk about the Challenge All Stars or Challenge All Stars 5 rivals right now. And when we're in season or when we're making content, which we're on a brief hiatus right now, check out Roundtable Talk, all part of the Reality Realm Network, and check out our Redbubble merch store. Links are in our social media. Check out our new TikTok channel where last week we took a little bit of a break, but we usually have some of our fun clips from the week, as well as sometimes I go on and give some analysis on the different shows and the weeks we saw previous. Also, Bruce and I are getting ready to go to Bryson One Presents for those of you that are Survivor fans. So stay tuned to our social media in the next episode of Tribal Council Chat to hear fun stories from that.
Yeah. And stay tuned for the future years when we see Say and Cedric run the Amazing Race together.
Please.
That would last like an episode or two, I think. But
Well, all of that being
yeah,
said, the world is waiting for you. Good luck.
travel safe